looking at doing a mixed-use urban along Route 27 just north of Cape Crossing. It's not all over the place, but that's really what we were looking at there. Jump into priorities. Our main priority was transportation. Obviously, that's going to be a big issue with this whole plan, is trying to get people in town. But obviously, how it's going to tie into the 429, just the overall ease of the traffic movement, not just for automobiles, but we talked about pedestrian use as well, bikes, trails like that, for joggers, sidewalks, that type of thing. The other priority was park and recs. Just looking at it from an economic perspective, trying to bring people into the area for parks and trails, and how it would just tie into the whole wellness concept and NTC area. Anything else on this?
Thank you. All right, let's do our table. Randy Fitzgerald is our spokesperson.
We started with our looking at the road, the main road, the road that we thought was most likely near-term connection to 27. And so we really started with the connection to 429 at Schofield, because I don't know how many of you are aware of this, but the Expressway authorities have a commitment to finish the ramp for the 429 interchange to get that interchange finished by 2016, June of 2016. That's a very short time. So, and there's already a right-of-way corridor that goes from that interchange to Highway 27. So our focus was to start there and then kind of move outward. And we thought that a good place for an employment center would be directly contiguous to the retail wholesale district in Horizon West, right on that boundary. And then the next level would be a suburban kind of mixed-use area with housing and the types of kind of community neighborhood type retail. And perhaps a small retail center at what would be an intersection, fairly intersection here in the middle. I can't see what I'm pointing to. And then as you move farther to the west, we thought town center focused around Trout Lake, focused around Trout Lake, with another employment center to the north, and again the kind of suburban type of land use south, and then where the environmentally sensitive area is, that should remain rural, reserve kind of type of low density residential. And then one of the trade-offs that we thought was, because the road that's going to go through Concord has to be, you have to negotiate with Concord. They don't give their land away. And so we thought that in that negotiation process it would be nice if Concord would either work with us to create a park on their area, large like ball fields, and we thought an area, a good location for that would be adjacent to the employment center and the suburban areas, so both the employees and the residents could use the park. And as part of the Wellness Way Road, which is the farthest one to the north, we thought a fitness trail along that road when the road gets constructed going over directly to Lake Louisa would work well and tie the land uses together. I think that's it. I don't know what happens to our policy.
Randy? All right, let's table that. Tracy?
Thank you. We kind of started and identified Conserve 2 first and designated that as a conservation area. And then from that Conserve 2, we kind of spread out from there. We thought it would be nice to have a rural transition from between the conservation areas here But then also notice that along Highway 27, which is a major transportation corridor, maybe a town center around Trout Lake, similar to, I think, the other group, and then an employment center just above that, followed by another town center above that. And then over here, in this transition from Conserve to employment center, recognizing that you can have some like warehousing or industrial manufacturing, those sorts of things in that area, as well as the mixed-use suburban. Yes. Okay. And then trying to notice and recognize our major transportation corridors that are proposed to make sure we maximize those uses. And then again, mixed-use urban at major transportation corridors and adjacent to the employment centers for transportation uses. Regarding the objectives, the goals, we picked land use and built environment, and basically we just wanted to add a sentence in there, create a more fiscally efficient development pattern through greater diversity of land uses. Just insert a comma and say recognize the importance of interim uses and interim uses. Oh, okay. Recognize the importance of interim uses and then in more compact and cohesive urban form. And the suburban areas in the south that we kind of thought would transition well with the, again, with the transportation corridors, and then make that ease of transition between the conservation rural areas into those areas. Okay. Am I missing anything? Okay.
All right, got the table. Are you the spokesperson?
Yeah.
Probably, open our side of this discussion, we spent a lot of time talking about the Wellness Way corridor, and that it's going through an area that is really not attached to private property to generate value to economic development in private properties. Controlled or limited access facility, does that help you? And one point, what it really does help is Verizon Town Center, that takes all the traffic, 107 directly to Verizon West Town Center, and helps it there. If we're really talking about economic development, which is our focus in our discussion of Lake County, then how do we maximize the system to make that connection, which makes the through connection into Orange County, into Lake County, and supports Lake County in the area that is most developable under the sector plan. Terry showed you a map earlier that outlined all the natural areas in the south that are going to be difficult to develop and are going to get low intensity development, that like yellow or green. Then you've got a core area between Conserve and that area that really is developable, and that should have intensity. Now, I know it's not popular to talk about housing supporting economic drivers, but you need intensity of housing to support the idea of the Trout Lake Center as a driver to economic development. Then portions of the north we didn't focus on as much of this board discussion because there's so many points of what creates opportunity for Lake County and the types of things of economic drivers that will support it beginning now, because it's, I gave the analogy, we started Horizon West in 1993, and we're now 20 years into it, so we look at Horizon West to see where we're going to be in 20 years. So I had another, 20 years. And you can talk to Gary about beer. So the reality of getting something to happen and what are those catalysts to make it happen becomes a focus of that system. Don't let the road system take away from the ability to catalyze the opportunity for economic development. That was the focus of our discussion. So what are the drivers for that? Trout Lake's a beautiful area, no question about that. 27 corridor, Lake Louise, this section through here, we said, let's focus on that. We haven't really determined exactly where that core area ought to be, but we said, let's begin to focus on that area, and then the connections from Orange County begin to synergize together. And I think that's what we were talking most about, but we drew the Wellness Way a little bit further south to make that connection and emphasize that relationship with private properties as drivers, unless the county has to step in and do all that, depending on funding, as we talked a lot about. So given that, we probably talked about the last one, right? The last point was focused on economic development and what are the types of things in your objectives you need to focus on. It's obviously ready sites, so you don't have to wait. There's somebody out there who's competing with a part of industry called niche industry, which are dependent on your profiles getting already into the county to do. Then they need the ready sites, you need to focus on those partner industries to begin with and their cohorts. Obviously flexibility is part of that readiness. Be ready to change and be open to that change. And sometimes that's not going to be popular to make that happen, but it's got to be part of your policy. And remind everybody 10 years from now to not bog this down. And then we talked about incentives and promotion. What is the local governments and the county going to do to actually make this happen? For example, Seminole County did an initiative 20+ years ago. We've got AAA and multiple sites up there, and then P3 partnerships and real partnerships. We're working together, not just, oh, we're going to partner with you and expect all private development to take for us. That would just drive everybody out to what we use. So those were the big thoughts of what we were talking about.
Christmas table goes next.
Thank you, Jeff. And table 4. Table 5 here, Herb Callard is going to fill you all in on our land use plan.
Good evening. Actually, our plan, watching the rest of them, is very much similar to the last two presentations, like I said. Obviously, the southern section is more suburban, integrated with a bunch of the wetlands that you find in south end of the county. The center corridor basically is your area where you can have some sustained growth, and it also matches many of the land use requirements and patterns in Orange County. We did suggest that there possibly may be a connector to the south as an additional road as it runs through and possibly across the wetlands. Some of the agricultural preservation may stay to the north end around Concert's land, and obviously dotted in with some suburban land uses in those areas that may become infill to some of the rural nature of some of the area in the northern end of the county. If you notice on the urban intensive land uses, we did dot in the workplace designations in purple here, recognizing that it probably shouldn't be entirely big purple blotches as we have here, but it should be maybe more integrated throughout the plan. In terms of the goals and objectives, we did discuss 22 issues, and that was that we should maintain flexibility in the plan and flexibility in the regulations. There also was discussion, there was also discussion about protecting the recharge area and enforcement of those standards. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Well, as long as we're in, we're table 11. We took a little different approach. The original concept we thought was to balance the South Lake area, and right now, the north end of the south end is out of balance. We have too many houses and not enough jobs. So rather than trying to create a new community of 100,000 people that was in balance, we were trying to incorporate the 50,000 people who already live here and put some balance to the entire community. So we took all the wetlands at the south end, that's all conservation does. We've been here long enough to know that you don't build houses in the swamp. So we wrote off the green part. Because we live up here where all the people are, we put the jobs up on the north end because we're looking for jobs who live here, for people who live here today, not for people who are going to live here 10 years from now. So we focused on the north end. If you notice where the planned roads are, we put the industry along the roads. Yes, we put industry in the middle of Concert too, because we're still hoping that Orange County will wake up and realize that they can take some of their Concert 2 property, rent it on a long-term lease to a manufacturing company who can put a factory there and jobs for the people of South Lake County. We don't want them to sell their land, we just want them to lease it to job generators. Along major things were their intersections, community shopping centers, maybe a little bit of residential,
We had diverse opinion in our table, like most of you did, because apparently there's going to be some hospitalish type thing over here, perhaps some hospital research jobs. Take advantage of what Orange County has. Start sucking some of their money out, like they've been sucking our money out for so many years. And then conservation. There's absolutely no reason in the Concert 2, where they have the ribs, you can have a nice green space, trail, park, bike paths, right next to a factory. And then a few acres later, you have another factory. So parks and jobs are not mutually exclusive to one another. They should coexist, so on your lunch hour, you can go take a nice long walk and work off that fat breakfast you had. And then, of course, if you get enough population, the county's going to have to build a second park, and there's enough green space out here to put into ball fields for people to play in.
Okay. Thank you very much. We're starting to see some trends here. All right, this table.
Following the rest of the group, we're doing conservation of the south portion of the sector plan. It's hard to build in swamp, so we'll just state over this problem. This area here is going to be an employment center in purple. We hope it's large enough for everybody. You can see it from outer space. It can't be permitted. Anyone who wants to build there, this is actually designated, obviously not in the lake. I'm a little overzealous with our purple. Lake level, hopefully. The next area that we have is Rural Reserve. This is the Concert 2 property mostly in the yellow, and we thought that's an area to leave alone because we have something interesting. One of our members suggested a South Lake Trail connector with conservation land going right through the middle of the sector plan, going up to this area here, Johns Lake, and then connecting to the South Lake Trail through Lake Paca. So hopefully that'll be in the future plan. We also had mixed-use urban here. We designated this like a town center for celebration, or the other side, Orange County. And we have mixed-use suburban, that's the orange. So we thought that would wrap around the city. People are going to work in the cities, and then they're going to live on the outskirts areas here. We also designated a regional park right here in this little section. And that's our page. Our priorities are preserve the hills, that's supposed to go with urban, and the yellow for rural. Jobs equal offices, not trucks. We didn't want a lot of manufacturing in our employment areas, so we're thinking more offices. We want to connect to the South Lake Trail, and then my suggestion, no landfills for this thing.
Thank you very much. This is table 6, and you are?
Deanna. Okay, so we kind of have some of the same concepts as these two here, where we think that pond is going to remain the wetlands. We wanted to mirror the right and west area so that it kind of pulls those people into this area, and maybe they can work and spend their money here. We wanted to do kind of a town center here, once again, pulling in people from the other side to spend their money here. We also wanted to consider Valencia College's property over here and put a good professional center, employment area to maybe attract the students out and into here, and eventually they would own homes or rent. We threw a couple pockets over here of employment along with some parks, so walk out your office and go have a nice park lunch, and a little low-density urban here, suburban, and take advantage of the lake. And over here is Lake Louisa, so I realized we didn't have much over here, so we better put a nice little park and some professional and a little bit of residential, a buffer to, what's it called? What is that, the salt land? The sand? Yeah, the sand line. To maybe buffer some of that area out for the residents there. What we really wanted to concentrate on the high employment nodes in the area and bringing the trail, connecting the trail.
And you come down here all the way up to the West Orange at some point. Yeah. And let's see. Okay, let's go with this. All right, so economic development is what we find is really important. We found you to attract like sports facilities, medical research, biotech, the research, and the engineering, and then parks, recreation, and trails. What are we going to do to keep people here instead of going out to Orlando to spend their leisure time? Children's museums, community theaters, art, skate parks, connectivity in between the areas, so that you didn't really have to leave and spend your money in another county.
Great. Thank you very much. All right. Mr. Hall, this is evidently the spokesperson.
Who broke some rules? What we looked at first was the scale. 16,000 acres is very, very large. But when you take out the green that we've shown here in conserve, that's about 2,800 acres. And when you take out the southern portion, which is about 50% wetlands, you end up with a little less than 8,000 acres of developable land. And just coincidentally, the city of Claremont is 7,400 acres. So what you're looking at is a new Claremont. So then we started thinking about the transportation corridors. It shouldn't just be transportation corridors for vehicles alone. They should all include trails that would then tie into the other trail opportunities in Lake Louisa. So there's a corridor here from Schofield, there's a corridor here from Independence Parkway, you bring Hancock down, you bring the curve of Hartford Marsh down, and where those things hit together, we have these red circles where there's something happening there. There's some type of community center, civic, commercial, it's a little higher density, and those happen. And then, since you have Horizon S over here, there's one employment area here that seeks to take complementary uses from the Horizon West Town Center and put them there. That as we put these roads on, we started to see blocks become created from the north-south road in 27. So we took those blocks of land use and we put them all in employment center and the urban uses. So the corridor of 27 becomes the most densely developed area, but it's supported by these other north-south connections. So all the traffic is not loaded onto 27. And then we took the rest of it, and I learned long ago that I do this for a living. So that if I were an investment banker and you gave me $100, and of my $100, 50% of it was not good, and 50% of it was good, and you told me it was all not good, I would be angry with you. You're only investing 50% of my money. So we just colored this all orange, knowing that half of this area is, in fact, developable. So if you go to the American Planning Association guide for what the average amount of land uses are per city, you have about 16% of the city typically is non-residential. So what we've laid out here is about 22 or 23% of this area is non-residential for the economic development, and the ATA says 36% should be residential land. We have almost 36% residential land, again factoring in that half of this is not going to be development from a regulatory standpoint, and it seems to balance out nicely. The last point was, really didn't think if you're going to spend all this money, water, sewer, roads, schools, that you would leave land as 1 unit for 5 acres for the long term. That just doesn't seem to make any sense. If it's a 30, 40-year plan, you'll still have agriculture in the near term, but in the long term, you don't have any rural circle.
Hey guys, all right. So we started in the southern portion, and we basically left the wetlands unmarked, which is obvious because you can't build on wetlands. So even though it says it's orange, we're not building on the wetland, we're building around the wetland. There's already neighborhoods in here, and there's plans to move them further along this road. And so we decided to make that the mixed-use suburban area. And then this is very strong wetlands, so we did it conservation and rural. And then we moved the mixed-use suburban all around the conservation area. Up north, we mixed the employment along the main roads. And then in between there, we mixed the mixed-use urban areas. Obviously, if you have a lot of employment, you want the more dense population living there. And then we left this northern area more rural.
Our last table here, is that right? Yep, all right, Christie.
Okay, we did very similar to everybody else because there's so much wetland. So as you can see, the southern end is wet with rural and urban, low-density urban. This is community center and employment is pretty much the only area that is useful. Then we've got Conserve 2. You go up into Avalon, into the estates, which is already zoned rural and suburban. So we've done very similar to your map in the fact that employment centers all the way across work with what is already over in Horizons West and try again, like Keith said, to draw some of the Orange County money into Lake County and bring it across. As far as objectives, we were very concerned with transportation network priorities. Without roads, we don't have any of this because you can't get from there to here. Then we were also concerned with open space connections and connecting the southern part to Conserve 2 that would connect up to Lake Hopka and then connecting it across to Lake Louisa State Park. And to create some kind of funding plan, we have no funding plan right now, so we've got to create some kind of funding plan. All this is speculation without money, and right now we don't have it.
Did we miss any tables? Seems like we got everybody. All right, so very last thing that we are going to ask you to do, unless Mr. Parks wants to say something here at the end, I'll give you directions and he can close for us. You each have 5 dots. We're going to ask you to come up here up front and put your 5 dots on your top priorities, the objectives you like the most. You can put all of them on one, spread them out. I know it's going to be kind of hard, but it gives us an indication of really what's priority to you, the citizens of this community. So to do that, please don't leave without putting your dots on here. All right, Commissioner Marks.
Thank you very much, everybody, for giving up a Wednesday night. I know your time is valuable. Thank you very much. This is a process. Again, please note the additional dates and meetings that we're going to have. Mark them down. We need you to be a part of this. I do appreciate and enjoy hearing all the diverse opinions and ideas and thoughts. So I'm just very appreciative. Follow the process and come back. We have to go through this process to get to that long-term plan. This is about the next generation, and remember that. So thank you very much. I look forward to seeing everybody at the next meeting.
Thank you all.
Good.